High Court Judge Chacha Mwita has declared the education funding model championed by President William Ruto unconstitutional, citing its discriminatory nature and failure to uphold students' fundamental right to education. The ruling underscored the government's constitutional obligation to fund public universities and labeled the shift of this burden onto parents a violation of legitimate expectations. Judge Mwita criticized the lack of public participation in the adoption of the funding model, emphasizing that legislative proposals should have undergone thorough public scrutiny and been subjected to parliamentary review before implementation. The public should have been allowed to comment on the model prior to its enactment, the court stated, reinforcing the principle of inclusivity in policymaking. The Kenya Human Rights Commission initiated the case, arguing that the funding model disregards the needs of economically disadvantaged students. Petitioners highlighted that the model has introduced significant confusion, particularly in the selection of technical and vocational education and training, TVT courses, as students face delays and inadequate guidance from the Kenya Universities and Colleges Central Placement Service. Critics described the model as arbitrary, expensive, and undefined, contending that it undermines students' constitutional right to education. The petition accused the government of acting unlawfully and harming the educational prospects of countless university and TVET students, along with their families. This ruling represents a significant blow to President Ruto's administration, which had lauded the funding model as a transformative solution for Kenya's higher education sector. While reform in education funding is undeniably needed, the court's decision exposes gaps in the model's design and implementation, particularly its lack of equity and clarity. Observers suggest that this ruling is a victory for social justice and a reminder of the importance of public participation in shaping policies that affect citizens' lives. Education advocates argue that sustainable and inclusive funding strategies must prioritize the needs of vulnerable students, ensuring accessibility without imposing undue financial strain on families. The judgment also sparks a broader discussion about the sustainability of Kenya's education system and the government's responsibility in securing equitable access to learning opportunities. As the administration revisits its funding strategy, this ruling serves as both a legal and moral directive to center fairness, transparency, and inclusivity in its educational policies. For now, this decision stands as a milestone in safeguarding the right to education and affirms the judiciary's role as a check against unconstitutional policymaking. As stakeholders await the government's response, the ruling has amplified calls for meaningful reforms to address funding challenges while upholding the values of equity and accountability.